I spoke up in a meeting about something and I was shot down multiple times trying to provide some sort of insight. If I wasn't hitting the mark, that's fine. But the way that I was shot down, I immediately just went back into my shell.
I'm so excited. So we're on our way down to meet Demetra. Oh, thank you. Hi. How are you? So surprised. This is Demetra. Demetra is someone who's always felt confident and she has a thriving corporate career. However, now that she's switched into a new role, she's feeling like her confidence has been taken down a notch.
In my new role, I really felt like I would come in and hit the ground running with the same sort of confidence that I had in my previous role. But I quickly started to feel that lack of confidence in meetings and working with this new group. I needed to take the time to step back and understand why I was feeling this way.
After hearing all this, I felt like the Yes Apply Method tools could really help her by finding out what's happening in her subconscious mind and giving her the reprogramming tools to feel her best again. We're gonna dive even deeper into this in this coaching session. Welcome to part 1 of our confidence coaching session with Demetra. Hey Demetra, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thanks so much for coming into the office today.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate being here.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about what's going on.
Yeah. So I feel like in the last couple of months, I've lost a little bit of my confidence. I've always been this very confident, forward person. And as of late, I've been feeling self-conscious about my approach when I speak, around the people that I work with specifically. Starting a new job sort of has made me feel a little bit insecure, I think. Mm-hmm. So I think that that's really the big issue is feeling confidence at work and not feeling like I can speak up and be myself.
Mm-hmm. And how is that affecting you when you feel like you can't be yourself? Feels like I can't contribute, can't make an impact, and not feeling like I'm adding value, which is something I'm used to doing in my role. Mm-hmm. And then what would happen if you're not adding value? Like, I'm guessing when this is happening to you, you're thinking about like future repercussions. So
yeah, it makes me wonder if I've made the right decision. And if I, down the road, will I still be here? Is this something, are they thinking that maybe they made a mistake? Definitely all those things run through my mind. It's maybe more future stated for sure.
Okay. And so today, while we're here together, what would you like to get out of our time together? What would you like to leave feeling like, or what shifts would you like to have had?
Definitely the big word for me is confidence. It's strange for me because I've always felt really confident without even saying it. Mm-hmm. Back to feeling like I have smart things to say and like they have value and hold meaning. Mm-hmm. Abundant for sure. I think that that's something I always look for and want to feel in my everyday life. And I think I always talk about motivation and abundance as a shower. You need to do it every day to sort of feel good. And maybe I've gotten out of my specific practice, but yeah. So definitely confident, feel abundance, smart. I think sometimes I just don't feel smart when I feel I'm unable to provide insight, make an impact. Yeah.
Thanks so much for sharing that. It's so interesting too and great too, because as I'm sitting here listening to you sharing and you and I are going to be coaching together, just reminds me of the value of coaching, because it's going to benefit you. It's also going to benefit your company that you work for. Yeah. Because when you can go in and feel like you can contribute and you're smart and you're showing up in your best way, it's like a win-win-win for everyone, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
And a big part of my role is actually coaching my team members, my executive team members. And I feel like I'm just sort of brought back in my shell, like I can't provide that for them anymore. Mm-hmm. So it's quite the shift for me. Mm-hmm. So
do you feel like maybe for a while you've been giving to everyone else and maybe you're not getting that support? You're not giving yourself the space to have coaching?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a detail about my career. Most people develop with a group of people, and I've always been the individual contributor in my function. I've never had the opportunity to learn from a more senior person. I've always been that senior person, which feels strange. So that I've always been giving. I've never been given the opportunity to receive. So
that's so important. I feel like that happens so much with like very successful women, right? We're very independent and we want to succeed. And so often we forget we have to ask for help too.
Yeah.
Right. And when we ask for help and we get that support, we can actually give it to others in an even better way, from a full cup rather than from an empty cup.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's definitely very important.
Okay.
Cup not feeling full.
Let's fill that cup right up. I love it. Okay, so let's go to the moments of that lack of confidence. Because I know by the time you leave today, you want to feel really, really confident. So I'd love to ask you, think of a time, an important time where you wanted to feel confident and then it just wasn't happening for you. When you go back to that time, what's the very first thing that happened there?
When I spoke up in a meeting about something and I was shot down multiple times, trying to provide some sort of insight. And it felt like if I wasn't hitting the mark, I think that's fine. But the way that I was shot down, I immediately just went back into my shell.
Okay. This is really good to know because, you know, when you first came to me and you were saying, I'm not confident, my first thought was maybe it's from switching roles. Maybe it's from, you know, these transitions. But what it actually sounds like is part of it is coming from repeatedly being shut down. And so when you're in that moment reacting, you're probably thinking, is my voice important? You know, is it valued? That type of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're being shut down repeatedly. And as this is happening, what's kind of going through your head?
How do I come back from this?
How do you come back from this?
Yeah. And then also there's a part where I'm retreating and just thinking and just at that point just disassociating from that entire moment and trying to think about how I could do better versus getting back in the moment and just being part of the conversation. So I automatically put it on myself instead of just trying to get back into the conversation. Yeah.
When that's happening, you're saying something and you're being shut down. What emotions are going through your body?
I feel anxious,
Okay.
nervous, and just feeling like I want to correct it immediately, which is something that, sometimes you can't do immediately. Sometimes it's just better to take a seat and listen more, but just the energy going through my body just feels like correct it, make it better.
And to me, you're saying correct it, but was your idea wrong?
I think I was expecting the meeting to go differently.
Okay.
And then I went in there with one strong idea and it didn't go, I think it was wrong. Ultimately, it was wrong. Like in hindsight, the idea was wrong. But if someone's idea, in my perfect world, or what I'm used to from my previous organization, is that if an idea is wrong, the way that you counter it is there's a better approach from the other side, and from my side. So I felt that I guess the approach that was taken was a little bit harsh in terms of what I'm used to, or building off of it. It wasn't completely wrong. It was just something that you should build off of.
Yes.
So just different. And it just really felt that it's not that my opinion, it was just disregarded. My opinion was just disregarded. Like I had no value. I think just specifically in my function, depends on that person's experience with human resources, whether they appreciate their input in this space. In the space that we were talking about, because it wasn't necessarily in my realm.
The idea you were contributing was like a little outside of your...
It could be, yes, depending on the people that you're working with. In my previous organization, I was right where I needed to be. But in some organizations, people value the function differently. So that could be it, but I'm just saying it didn't feel good. It just, I took away from it thinking, wow, I'm I don't know if I should even be in this meeting. I don't know if I'm not providing value. What's the purpose of me being in this meeting?
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. So it sounds like there's a few things happening here. And here's the thing, I'm coaching you individually, but as you're saying this too, it's just making me think how much value corporations as a whole can get from supporting people in leadership, opportunities, management, upper management with communication skills.
Yeah.
Because that's such a lose-lose to have you contribute what you felt like was a great idea and then have someone, we can't do every single idea at a corporation ever, right?
No,
but to have
not.
someone kind of come back at you or shut you down in a way where now you feel like I can't contribute ideas, that's such a lose-lose. So I feel like that person can benefit so much from having communication skills by listening and validating your opinion, validating your ideas, while also being, transparent that we just literally I can't do I would love to write a book and I would love to, do a bunch of things. I can't do everything at once, right? So there's a way where they can communicate with you, where they can validate what you're saying and say, okay, like that's something we can consider, or that's something that might go on a list, but it's a lower priority, or that's something that we need more data to be able to back up. Because in that situation where someone just says no or whatever it is, it's just their opinion against yours. But if you actually look at the data, look at the marketing, look at the staff, whatever it is, it might actually be the best idea the company has ever heard, right?
Yeah.
Especially from your perspective and your experience.
Absolutely. I agree. And I think that from a corporate perspective, I always think that people grow up in their career, become executives, and they think, okay, I got here because of XYZ, and don't adjust for change and how the world is changing and think of new ways of doing things. So I think people cut off their openness to grow and to learn. I've quite literally had people say, don't tell me how to do my job, or people shouldn't tell me how to do, not to me specifically, don't like, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, so there's no other way to do your job.
Exactly.
So they're closed off from growth. Yeah. Whereas I come from a very different mindset. I always want to continue to grow and improve my skill set, my communication style, and understanding for example, if I was completely wrong in that meeting, I think a different approach to shooting down that suggestion would have been much better.
Absolutely. But because perhaps you share an idea and then it sparks something else in someone else, and then the best idea ever comes out of it. So it's a lose-lose ever to have an employee or something like that feel like they're shut down. Yep. So that's just, as you're sharing, just something that I'm thinking of, like the company as a whole. Yep. And I feel like that's so important for you to remember too, that as you're sharing your ideas, just because one person thinks it's not the best idea doesn't actually mean that it's not the best idea. Yeah. And even if the person is in a higher role than you, they're not actually, like, those are just titles that were given, but there's no real like hierarchy, right? Someone can start as a janitor and then go to the CEO. Yep. In a few years because of how their approach, and also someone who works at a company who's not willing to grow and not listen to ideas. Who knows if you're going to continue to move up even faster because of the way that you approach ideas and meetings and collaboration and everything like that. Yep. So I think a few things that can be supportive of you that we can work on today is, like, what I'm hearing is when you're in a meeting and, there's so many different people in the meeting and you want to contribute, if that other person doesn't agree, what's happening is it sounds like your nervous system, you're going into anxiety, maybe you're going into a little bit of fight, flight, or freeze. And that's not your fault. That's just how humans work, right? That's just how humans work. And so what happens is when we go into fight or flight, it actually cuts off our communication with our prefrontal cortex, where we can be creative and we can have ideas and we can be connected to our subconscious that has, all those great ideas flowing and we feel good and we go straight into survival. And that's why you feel like you're cut off from your ideas. We actually a lot of the time we go right back into kind of who we were as a child. And so that's why when you're saying, I don't feel smart, you're still smart. Your prefrontal cortex is still there, but because we've gone a little bit into survival mode, you can't actually connect with all of your smartness, right? And so some work that we can do today in our session, and then also ongoing, I'll give you some ideas of things that you can do. We can support you in keeping your nervous system regulated so that even if someone says, that's the worst idea I ever heard, you can say, okay, and here's 3 more ideas, right?
Yeah.
Because you're still calm and your power is coming from within rather than that outside person or that outside thing dictating how you feel.
Yeah.
And the beautiful thing is our brains are plastic, right? So we grew up going through school where if the teacher says something, they're right, we're wrong. So we've been programmed our whole life to think that what other people say is right and maybe we're not smart enough or we don't know or whatever. But the beautiful thing is our brains are plastic. We can wire new neurons, new connections so that even when that other person says you're wrong, your feedback or your approach is maybe I'm wrong or maybe they just need a different perspective. Or maybe I can go and grab a little bit of data and come back to it because I actually do think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
Or maybe I can talk to another person on a different team because I know that it's a great idea.
Yeah.
Or even if it was not a great idea, I can still contribute with other ideas and other perspectives.
Yeah, I think that my fear comes from, being relatively new in this position, providing ideas where they don't think that they're valuable. Well, they always feel that way about me going forward. And I think that sort of sits with me. Now I feel like I'm always in I have to prove myself phase or stage, which also doesn't feel good. Yeah, which is something completely new from my previous organization where I was just a big impact maker. I influenced change. I created so many different programs that elevated the organization. I was able to go to Istanbul and do that, which was I was given that opportunity because of all the things I was able to accomplish and contribute to the organization. And it's just been a very different experience here. Yeah.
So what would happen if you didn't feel like you had to prove yourself and you just knew you were enough as you are, sitting in every meeting, whether you contribute or something or not, you knew you're enough as you are in every single meeting?
Then I would probably just feel good about my everything I said. If I just always felt like I was enough,
And you'd just feel comfortable sitting in every meeting, in every boardroom, everything like that.
Yep.
Okay.
That's a good way of phrasing it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do you feel like if we were to release that feeling that you need to prove yourself, that you would then feel confident and you could leave our session today feeling confident?
I think so.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What else do you feel like is adding to that shift in your confidence from before?
In my previous role, so I think the switch was changing organizations, but I think less was expected of me in my previous organization and I over-delivered, whereas I think a lot more was expected of me in this organization, and I'm sort of thinking that I may not be able to deliver what they're looking for, or maybe I'm trying to deliver exactly what they're looking for, trying to read people's minds. Instead of going out and asking the right questions, I usually take problems away and try to solve them in the corner by myself, instead of trying to gauge the people on what we actually need to do to move forward. So it's a little bit different. I think the shift between companies and leadership, has been a big setback for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So at this company, it sounds like they're asking you to do a bunch of different things and you're thinking to yourself, what if I can't accomplish all of these things?
Yeah, there are some aspects of the role where I feel like I can't, but I know I can. Yeah, I think that there's a few things that I can accomplish it all. I think that there's just some support I'm looking for that I'm not getting. I think. So the difference between this role is also that I'm coming in at a time of change as well. So I'm joining during a time of change and uncertainty. And there's a lot of, say, operational things that still need a lot of work. And I find myself devoting a little bit more energy there versus the strategic stuff that would help, other aspects. It's less tangible, I would say. The strategic is a little less tangible, whereas the operational it's done. We move forward. We call it a day. And I think that maybe I go towards those things because I know I can provide easy, fast impact on those and create change.
Okay. And just because I'm not in your world, so I don't know all the aspects, can you give me an example of what a strategic effort would be? And it doesn't have to be from that company, if you want to keep things anonymous, but just give me an idea of what a strategic effort would be.
Yeah, so I'll just kind of keep it general, not to this organization, but a strategic effort could be creating a program that supports the business function. So creating performance management programs that support business functions. This is what I did. Actually, I won't say where I did it. But basically, I created a performance management program that was more on a frequent basis that supported our business needs. And I was actually able to provide a really great impact and change in that. And that's something that I know I can do. Just here it feels different. I just can't provide that level. So strategic could be anything from the programs that we create that enable people. And then it supports the business outcomes.
Right.
So we want to achieve XYZ revenue. What are the supporting programs that we need to be able to do that? And how are we supporting business teams to push that forward? So organizational change, making sure we have the right people in the right places. What sort of analysis are we doing around that? So there's multiple different strategic efforts on that side that I usually can provide really good effort in.
Okay, amazing.
Yeah.
And so what I'm hearing is you can do it all, but right now there's probably so much to do. Maybe it's a little bit overwhelming, right? There's so many things coming at you at once. And maybe even by the time you get all the organizational stuff done, then you're like, okay, when am I going to sit down and make all this strategic stuff happen?
Yeah.
One question that I always love to ask myself, and I think is really powerful, is always asking for what purpose? Because sometimes, especially if people are putting things on your to-do list and then you have your own things that you're putting on your to-do list, it's so easy for us to get caught up in either busy work or just getting like a lot of like little tasks done.
Yeah.
But then sometimes if we actually look at, okay, are all these little tasks adding up to this big thing? Or am I doing all these little tasks that would actually be better? It would be better if I were to delegate this to someone else so I can do more of the leadership stuff or the higher level thinking stuff.
Yeah.
So one thing I'll kind of give for you for after the session as well, and I'll repeat it all after, is when you sit down and you look at all the things on your to-do list, is also asking yourself for what purpose. Because when you think of the greater thing that the company wants from you, a lot of the time, maybe people are giving you something to do, but at the end of the day, you don't actually have to do that little thing and you'll still be able to accomplish that bigger thing.
Yeah.
Does that align?
Yeah, absolutely. I find myself sometimes I'm like, why am I spending time writing this email right now when I should be focusing on this that I need to deliver? Or that I want to deliver.
That probably is a lot more lined up to your high level role, right? And maybe that goes back a little bit to you're so independent and your independence is what brought you to this place. But maybe there's areas where having a support person or an assistant or something like that can do scheduling, smaller emails, that type of thing, so that you can actually do what you came here to do, which is the big picture, strategic, higher level, things that are going to accomplish the big tasks.
That are going to drive, they're going to drive the organization.
They're going to drive the organization because you know that you can do it, and maybe not getting caught up in these little things is going to allow you to do those bigger things.
Yeah. And I think just going back to this organization versus previous org, we didn't have a really big team, so everybody was sort of operating at high-low. Mm-hmm. So I didn't even have that opportunity, but here I have a little bit more of that opportunity, but I'm so used to operating at a specific level, high-low all the time, that I'm just sort of, I also take you're not doing it right. Give it to me.
Totally. Yeah.
Sound like my mother there.
Well, that's literally where we get all of our programs and all of our patterns from our parents and the people who raised us. Would you say that you have a little bit of resistance then or hesitancy in asking for support?
I would say I'm a little bit better at it now.
Okay.
I like to be self-sufficient.
Mm-hmm.
That's one aspect of it. And I see things that are happening that I have a lot of experience in that I'm not involved in. Mm-hmm. That could be a lot better if I was involved. But I also have to ask myself for that question, like, for what purpose? Why I need to focus myself here. This is what's expected of me. So don't redirect your energy.
Mm-hmm. When I ask you this question or when I share this, what comes up for you? The thought that you can ask for support and still be self-sufficient.
I feel like I wouldn't. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's totally possible to be able to ask for support. And yes, it's new to me in this world where we operated I was used to doing everything for myself, whether it was like scheduling meetings and all of my executive team and my previous org had that because we didn't have support like that. Mm-hmm. Whereas here is we have somebody who takes care of those things. It's their job. And even from the strategic side, there is a lot of support from the global team. Mm-hmm. So I feel very lucky for that. But it's, again, also new for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are a few things that you feel like you could ask for support on so that you could focus more on the strategic and the higher level? Yeah.
I think there is a piece of me that feels like we need to get a few things out of the way because people keep knocking on my door because I am dysfunction. Mm-hmm. So I feel like a few things need to get out of the way and then create clarity for the team around how to use specific tools. I feel like with the transition of this organization, I think a lot of the team doesn't have the right knowledge around how to use the tools that are set up. But for myself to be able to ask the thing is I do ask for support now. Mm-hmm. Maybe I'm not asking in the right way or to the right person.
Okay.
I think that might be it.
Okay, great. So that's perfect. Thank you so much. So I feel like with a few things off of your plate, you'll be able to focus more on those higher level things. So let's dig back into supporting you with getting that confidence in sharing in meetings, in having that higher
I know. It's like, yeah. I remember I was telling you the last time I did EFT, I like burst out into tears. I'm like kind of feeling that feeling right now.
That's good. Yeah. That means things are shifting.
Yeah.
After EFT too, it's always good to like take a nice deep breath.